Yeah, they're a skill. I believe consistency is a skill. I believe discipline is a skill. I believe mental toughness is a skill. And with any type of skill, you can learn it, you can craft it, you can get better at it, you can sharpen it, and you can master it. And just as fast as you can build it, sharpen it, and master it, you can lose it.
Welcome to the Iron Mind podcast. What separates the elite from the merely good? Follow me as I explore the makeup of elite athletes. What helps them come through when the pressure is greatest and the stakes the highest? Hi, my name is Corey. Today's guest is Elliot Allen, also known as Coach Elliot on Instagram. Elliot has over 140,000 combined followers on his TikTok and Instagram, where he posts tips for elite athletes on how to build speed, strength, and confidence to win at the next level. He played football at the Division II level and now has founded 86 Speed, where he coaches speed and strength and also helps with college recruiting. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Coach Elliot. Thank you so much for being here today. I love watching your reels and all your Instagram posts about helping athletes reach their full potential. So it's really exciting to see you over this call and talk to you about the mental side of sports.
Yeah, hey man, I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure to be able to chat with somebody, especially an athlete who's still playing, and kind of bounce some cool ideas back and forth. And I mean, tell my story is going to be really cool too, and chat about sports and mindset. I'm really big in mindset, so being able to chat about that is like my biggest passion. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Great. So just to start things off, I wanted a little more background information. So could you tell me more about what got you into mindset and nutritional coaching? And was there a moment in your life or career that really sparked your interest in the mental side of sports?
Yeah, it has been quite a long road. To try and dial it into like a really quick explanation. Obviously, I played a lot of sports growing up. Football was my main sport. I did end up getting a full ride to play at the NAIA Division II level. So I was fortunate enough to do that. That was the extent of my career after college. And then getting out of college, kind of not knowing what to do, bouncing around from job to job. You kind of like when you're an athlete for so long and it ends abruptly, you kind of like you got to
Feel
regroup
lost.
and rewire a lot of stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah, for sure.
so that was a tough transition, but going from job to job and still trying to dabble in training and trying to figure out what I want to do. I actually got into coaching and training men. I thought that was my avenue because now I'm a man and maybe these guys can relate to me, or I can find some ex athletes that I can help out. But nothing was really like sparking the interest and all that. But luckily, during that process, I did a whole lot of self-reflection and self-development. I started listening to, a lot of people in the space, entrepreneurs and guys with like really strong-minded thinking. And it got me thinking a lot more. And so I started focusing a lot more on my mindset and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And, obviously it took a while, but I eventually started coaching some kids in person because I'd always had like a natural gift for running fast. So I started getting into that. I'm like, I could teach some kids how to run fast. So I started doing some stuff in person, and that grew into, a handful of kids here and there, and it grew into something cool. And then as I was getting older kids, a few of them started asking me if I could help them with other stuff, if I could help them with gaining some size, if I can help them with eating and that sort of thing. So it slowly developed into what it is now. And I realized that coaching guys my age wasn't what I needed to do, but I'm glad I did it because, it made me realize that's not where my passion is. These kids coming to me and asking me about stuff is where the program really started to develop. I set them up on, the best diet plan that I thought would work for them over the course of, the last year or two. It's changed into a lot better performance-based nutrition. I set them up with good strength programs so that they weren't lifting like bodybuilders. They weren't powerlifting, which is a lot of what they were doing.
Sure.
So I think it was a lot of reflecting on why, because when I was younger, I had this big dream to go to Division I level. I wanted to go play in the NFL, and I didn't make it there, obviously. And so over the years, doing this self-development and thinking about a lot of things, and what I want to do now and how I can make an impact now, I realized I know the mindset I should have had when I was younger in order to get to that level, and why I only made it to the Division two level and, didn't make it to the NFL. So, now it's like I can teach that to kids at that age and get them looking at everything the right way so I can help them actually get to the goals they want. Because all the kids, that come to me that are in the program, they have big goals. They have goals that are hard to talk to normal people about because they're so
Of
big.
course.
Like they have a
Yeah.
hard time talking about, like, I want to go to the NFL. I want to go to the Olympics because those goals are so big, but I don't hesitate at those goals. So it's, that's basically where it's come from. And I don't know if I don't think it was one scenario that kind of clicked everything. It was a long process for me to figure all that stuff out. But I just think that's just life. You just got to keep going and keep doing things and keep dabbling in certain stuff, and eventually it finds you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel that because, there's always that old saying that, well, I don't know if it's old, but there's that saying where, if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. And I definitely relate in that because, sometimes when you start telling people your goals or your dreams, they kind of confine you because they don't believe that you're able to achieve that goal.
Yeah. And
And
they like inside, they may not believe you. Like they don't really have ill intentions, right? They're not purposely trying to, get you to quit, but well, that's pretty hard to do, isn't it? It's like, it's those questions that like make you question everything that makes it difficult. Like one of the big things I teach these kids is you've got to completely and continuously audit the friends that you have around you.
of course,
It could take you 6 months, 12 months to build a sound mindset, to believe in yourself, to make it to that level. And in just 1 second, one comment from somebody can bring you all the way back down to the beginning. It's super important to keep a solid inventory on the people around you. Make sure your parents are on board with it, and make sure your closest 2, 3, 4 friends are more than just supportive. They're pushing you in that direction.
yeah. Um, well, now you've worked with athletes of all ranges. I'm sure you've worked with, some high school level, some college level, and like you were saying, some youths. And while you've been helping these athletes, has there been kind of a pattern that you've noticed where they consistently, or all of these athletes consistently struggle with one particular part of mental toughness?
This guy right here, phones and time, right? So if you think back, how old are you?
I'm 17.
17. So you're still high school age. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it's the lack of time struggle, which getting into this, I didn't think was going to be that big of a struggle. I thought the biggest struggle was going to be teaching them how to eat and how to stay on track with that. But what I see mostly is the excuses of just not having the time to work out. You're in season, you got school, you got homework. So I'm not going to be able to do my workout today. And a lot of it comes down to just the structure of the day, how you start your day. I preach to all my kids that, it's how you start your day that's going to get you off the right foot and is going to help you realize that you have a lot more time than you think, because you don't realize how much time you're wasting when, you wake up and your first instinct is to, start scrolling on this thing. And um, it wastes a lot more time than you think. Um, really it's finding those little excuses to keep you from doing the work that has to be done, because all these kids want to go to college. And when you get to college, there is no choice. It's if you're going to college, especially the D1 level, you're going to school, you're training, you're doing maybe some night school, some night classes, you got practice, you got some conditioning, you got to eat good through all of that, and you're doing it all on your own. You don't get your parents anymore at that point. So I think the time excuses are really the biggest struggle that we have right now, is just keeping these kids aware of how much time they really do have if they focused on it. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's so easy to create excuses nowadays that you don't have time or you're tired, something like that. But a lot of people I've noticed just, aren't willing to put in the work and be disciplined to really follow through with what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the name of the game is consistency when it comes to, building the discipline and building this mental toughness, this iron mind that, that you talk about. It really just comes down to consistency. Not every day are you going to feel, 100% and you're going to be able to hit a max in the gym, or you're going to be able to jump, your highest jump, or whatever the case is. Some days you're working with like 60% energy, but you still got to go get something done. That's what builds that iron mind, like we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, in that case, could you maybe walk us through an example? Maybe there's a certain athlete that comes to mind that you've coached and they made a real big breakthrough because even though they were still training hard, they improved mentally as well, and or even their nutrition.
We've had There's so many instances of like mini breakthroughs that I can think of. A lot of them revolve around speed training, which is why I preach about speed training so much. And that's actually like some of the content and stuff that people enjoy the most, is the basis around speed training. It's very difficult to get a kid bought into the fact that he has to speed train 2 or 3 times a week in order to even try to get faster, and then speed train, once or twice a week just to maintain your speed. Speed is like growing a tree. Like you have got to water it daily in order for it to grow. And it's not going to visually just grow real quick. It grows super, super slow, but you have to water it daily. So I think like a specific breakthrough that comes to mind, one of my kids, very, very hard worker. Like it was not hard to get him to work out, but he was kind of all over the place. He'd always want to do like way more workouts than he needed to during the week. His nutrition was like, he was eating a ton of protein, and he was eating some pretty solid foods, but it wasn't balanced like an athlete needs to. So he was doing a lot of the right stuff. But once I got him focused on the right amount of strength training, I got his speed train. Like he wanted to speed train, like do like legit speed trainings every single day. Once I got him focused on all that, and he was on a consistent 3 times a week speed training, he does them all on his own. And then the strength training's on point, and his nutrition has been getting a lot better from what I can see. He has been, and is somebody that I see in person. So he comes to my in-person stuff every now and then. His speed, so we time mile an hour, has been going up every single time he comes to see me. Every single time. And normally when it comes to speed, it's kind of like this gradual up and down, up and down, up. You got to get used to like
Of course.
the ebbs and
Yes.
flows, right? His is literally just been, he's consistent. And I knew we could get him to that point. That was just, he was just all over the place. He wanted to do everything. He wasn't giving himself enough time to rest and recover. But once we got him like focused, we used that consistency to his advantage, and he just shot up. And since then too, his confidence has gone up, like you had asked, because he would come to me questioning like why he was losing certain races, or they do like a backyard race with a few buddies and he lost, and it was somebody younger than him. But since then, like,
Yeah.
I mean, he might lose a race, but it doesn't beat him down. It gives him gas to keep going and get better, and that's the ultimate goal, because you can't win 100% of the time. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have off days when somebody has a good day, and you're going to get an L. It's how you bounce back from that L that builds the mindset, which is what we're all going for. We're going for that iron mind. We have to take losses and learn how to bounce back from those quick. And this kid is learning how to do that very quick now that he's being consistent with everything.
Yeah, for sure. So when someone does have, a loss or they lose, is there something that you like to, your go-to kind of thing to say to them? Or what do you tell your athletes that lose, and how do you encourage them to bounce back?
I kind of do like a reverse psychology. I ask them where their head is at. And so they'll explain it. They'll tell me like it sucks. Like I feel like I should have won, or this. They'll give me the reasons why. And then I'll ask them a different question. I'll go, okay, what do you want to, like, what are you ready to do from here? And the answer it could either be like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm if I'm good for this, or like if I got to do something else. Most of the time, if you ask the right questions, I try not to like tell them what they need to do, because they don't learn as good that way. Right. So if you get
Yeah.
somebody to come up with the answer on their own, they remember it a lot better. So what I like to do is try to pick their brain on how they're feeling and what they're ready to do next. And usually more times than not, the answer is like, I want to race again. I want to get some extra training in. Like, what else can we do? And then after that, I can tell them like, good, that like, that's where we need our head at. Like we get that, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to kind of pout about it. And like, this sucks. I really feel like I should have won, but that's all you get. You get 5 minutes, and then you got to flip that switch and you got to use that as fuel. Remember how that felt, and then use that as fuel when you go into your next training, when you go into your next practice, and then when you go into your next game. So I actually try not to tell them too much. I try to get them to kind of come up with that answer on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Definitely. I'm going to transition a little bit to nutrition. And obviously, everyone knows that the mental and physical aspect of training is super important. But even with mental and physical training, some people, they still aren't able to perform their best because they're not paying attention to their diet. So, what role do you think diet plays in an athlete's ability to perform their best? And it obviously would affect their physical performance, but also mental performance.
I say when it comes to nutrition, it's just as equally as important as building that mental mindset. The cool part about nutrition is it's another avenue to build the mindset, because it's not easy to stay on track when everybody else around you is eating like crap. It's not easy to wake up at 6 so that you have enough time during the day to eat all the food you got to eat before your football game or your basketball game at night. It's not easy to go to a family outing the day before a big game and pass on all the cool food and the treats and stuff, and eat some healthy whole food when your entire family's eating a bunch of junk. Doing all that builds a discipline in you that works just as much as going to train when you feel like you're 50% in it. Like, it's things that you have to do, and it helps build that mindset. On the flip side, when you do it right and you eat the right things, you energize your body the right way, you're more mentally focused, you're clearer, you feel lighter, and that just aids in the performance aspect on the field. When I first got into this, and the first handful of athletes that started to come to me, and I built them a nutrition program. I almost built it like how I eat, which is a lot different than how a young kid needs to eat, or an athlete. It wasn't super high protein, but the protein was up there. And we counted calories and we counted carbs and fats and protein and all that, and we did that for a while. A handful of kids, they stuck to it really well, and they they had good results. But I quickly realized that the results we were after weren't the results we really needed. It was more performance based that we needed to focus on. And so we started to transition more into fueling the body like an F1 car. Like, it doesn't really need to look cool. Like, yeah, an F1 car looks cool, but it needs to be fast, right?
Yeah.
It needs to go fast. It needs to perform well, and it's going to rip through that fuel super, super fast. So it's going to have pit stops all day, just like an athlete. Once we transitioned to that, I started to see the kids, or get some notes from the kids that they were starting to feel better, which is really what you're after, right? Like, you just want to feel good, you want to feel fast, you want to feel light on your feet. And so that's when I realized, like, we have to transition this program, and from counting calories and trying to like build a bunch of muscle and eat a bunch of protein to fuel the body and feel good and move good. And yeah, that just aided in the aspect of, like I said, building the mindset, because you're doing things that barely anybody around you is doing. And then you're eating the right stuff, so your mind is clearer, and you're able to perform better, because that's all an athlete needs to do. They don't need to look like a bodybuilder out there. They just got to perform well. And a good example of that is, if you look at professional football players, some of them off the field don't look like football players.
Yeah.
They don't look like they would be able to hit hard, or do much, but they're fast, they're
They're
explosive.
powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all they train for. And they eat that way. They just eat to make sure that they stay active, their mind stays clear, they stay energized, because energy isn't, you don't get energy from caffeine. Yes, you get some energy from sleeping, but really where it comes from is what you're putting in your body. And these professional athletes have figured that out. Like, some of them just have good genetics and they look all ripped and stuff, but a majority of them, like, they look like average dudes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Well, specifically, what's an essential
practice, food, or tool that you think most athletes are neglecting? And what's something you think that any athlete could start doing daily and instantly see an improvement in their performance?
I'm trying to think of like the most common one that an athlete can literally do right now to help their performance. And honestly, if you could get a hold of your sleep schedule, and I'm going to get ripped up for this one because, I've posted stuff about this and, people are like, kids need their sleep, especially on the weekends. And like, I understand that, kids should sleep a little bit more on the weekends. But if you're telling me that a kid needs, you know, 10, 11, 12 hours of sleep on a weekend because they're not getting enough during the week, then they don't have their whole thing structured anyways. So they're only getting probably 6 or 7 hours during the week. So now we have to all of a sudden gain some hours back on the weekend. It doesn't really work like that. What I like, my thing is if you can structure your nighttime and your morning routine, everything else goes up with that. So if you can get 8 hours of sleep every single night and you have the same routine, even on the weekends, it might differ an hour or two, but you're still getting 8 hours. That right there is gonna boost your performance huge because obviously sleep is key. I mean, anything under 7 hours for especially an athlete in high school, that just increases their chance of injury by an amazing amount, like a
Yeah, it
ton.
is insane. Yeah, I feel that.
So just that alone is going to boost your performance, but it also gets you in that structure of starting your day out right, doing a few things that keep you off of this thing, and it stacks wins. So you're starting your day out right, which stacks wins in your mind and helps build consistency, which down the road builds the discipline that you're looking for, which builds the iron mind. It's progressive, it's long, it takes a while, but it's all about stacking tiny little wins. And I feel like the best place to start is with that structure at night and in the morning. That just, it gets your day off right. And I mean, those wins are really what kind of slowly build the little building blocks to that strong mind.
I love that because I think obviously having that structure in your sleeping schedule, it's all about building consistency. And if you're living a consistent life, like how you treat others consistently, how you feel consistently, it affects how you perform on the field or on the court as well, because you need to be as consistent as possible. And building consistency is obviously a habit. It's a habit you have to cultivate in your daily life.
Yep. Yeah. They're a skill. I believe consistency is a skill. I believe discipline is a skill. I believe mental toughness is a skill. And with any type of skill, you can learn it, you can craft it, you can get better at it, you can sharpen it, and you can master it. And just as fast as you can build it, sharpen it, and master it, you can lose it. So even if you get to a point to where you're doing all these small foundational things like eating right, training right, sleeping right, if you don't keep doing them once they become a habit and you move on to let's say onto like to recruitment or something and you're focused on that stuff, that doesn't mean you just get to quit all the small things because then you'll lose that skill again. You can build skills and you can lose them. And I truly think that it starts just like your day starts in the morning. It literally starts with that structure around your sleep. And then you just build from
Yeah,
there as the day goes on.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been focusing a lot on what an athlete can do to help improve their performance. But I wanted to transition a little bit and ask you if there's one thing that you think that most coaches or parents get wrong when trying to build mental toughness in their players
They tell them what to do.
and not letting them
So,
figure it out themselves. Yeah.
or yes, that helps too. So there's a lot of things that they do need to figure out themselves. What I try to do in all of my coaching is lead by 100% example. So if you see me training, it looks like I'm training for football. If you see me eating, it looks like I'm eating for football. I don't I don't sleep in on the weekends. I don't go to bed late. I drink a ton of water. In my mind, kids, and I've got a few kids myself, they learn by observing. You can tell them to do anything, but if they see something different, that's what they're going to end up doing. And that's even true for your age. I mean, you're 17 years old. You're still learning by observing. You're soaking in a lot of what you see around you. And if there's one thing that especially parents, because they're around their kids so much, obviously they're the parents, would be to anything that you want your kid to do, that's probably what you should start doing, and there could be, there's 100 examples of that. But if we're keeping it simple, like nutrition, if you want your kid to change their eating habits, and let's say they're 13 years old, their eating habits are from the family eating habits. If you want them to change those, then maybe the whole family should think about changing their eating habits, how much they're eating out, what they're buying at the grocery store, how much water they're all drinking. So my big thing is, if you want your kid to make big drastic changes, then I feel like you should make some big drastic changes yourself and show them by example, and they will follow. They will.
Yeah, I love that. Lead by example. And kind of even goes back to what you were saying earlier about the friends you surround yourself with. And I think it's just the people you surround yourself with, you start to take after them, and their behavior reflects off of yours, or yours reflects off of theirs. Yeah. And so it's really about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yep. You ever heard the quote, "You are the sum of the 5 people you are around the most"? It's the truth. If you are hanging around drinkers, if you're hanging around 5 drinkers, you become the 6th. If you're hanging around 5 people that do drugs, you become the 6th that do drugs. If you're hanging around 5 people that golf, you're probably going to pick up golf. It goes with anything, especially kids. If you're hanging around 5 kids that they just hang around in a circle and they're on their phone all day, you're going to sit around, be the 6th one hanging on their phone all day. That's why, like, one of my biggest things is constantly reminding these kids to audit the friends that they're hanging out with, and even letting the parents know they should probably keep an eye on who they're hanging out with as well. Because a lot of the parents do have a lot of say in that,
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, before we wrap up, I do have a tradition on this podcast where the previous guest leaves a question for whoever comes on next. And the previous guest asks, when have you lacked mental toughness when you needed it? And what did you learn from that experience?
Ooh, that is a good question, because this is literally why I started my program. This is why I started coaching athletes, especially youth high school athletes, because I know now that I've built my mindset and what I know today, I can guarantee you, if I got that chance to go back in high school and do it over again, I know exactly what I would do to get that D1 scholarship and to make it into the NFL. I played too many video games, focused too much. I don't want to say I hung out with my friends too much, because you still need to hang out with your friends. But I prioritized that way too much. I did train a lot. I trained every single day after school. I would walk to the gym every single day. I would speed train the days that this guy would do speed training on the weekends. But as far as like nutrition, didn't really learn that till later on. Just ate whatever I possibly could. Didn't really focus on water, that kind of stuff. But as far as doing little things like the sleep routine and focusing on what I could actively do to get myself in front of the right coaches, I focused too much on, playing video games when I was done working out, or, hanging out with my friends all weekend and, fishing or running around and getting in trouble, that kind of thing. So when I lacked the mental toughness, it was back then. But I didn't realize that until, within the last 5-6 years, which is literally the reason I started doing what I'm doing now. I want to open kids' eyes to what they're able to accomplish, the dreams that they have in their mind they're able to get to, as long as they focus on the right things. I can't go back and relive it and try to make it to the NFL, but I can help as many kids as I possibly can get to that point. So that was a really good question, especially for me, because that hit.
It's great. Yeah, it was from Coach Jay. He was the last one who asked that.
Yeah, that one hits hard. Like I said, it literally the reason I'm doing this, and if I could go back, I definitely would, and I know exactly what I would do. So
yeah. Do you have a question for the next guest relating to mental toughness?
Put me on the spot.
All right, take your time. It's yeah.
Oh man, we'll let them drop their favorite podcast, mental toughness podcast. So what is their go-to or their favorite mental toughness podcast that they'd recommend to athletes. We'll go with that one.
Great. That's a great one. I haven't heard of one like that yet.
I'm a podcaster, man. I still work full time while I'm building this thing up. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. Like it's my chance to, I don't have a lot of time to read because I'm usually, building the business up, but I podcast like crazy. And I think a lot of athletes would benefit from knowing what other podcasts are out there. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today's episode, Coach Elliot. It was so much fun talking to you, and thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Corey, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out. This was fun. I mean, talking about mindset, mental toughness, iron mind. I mean, it's right down my avenue. I'm really glad you reached out, dude. Thank you.
Great.